it's as fluid a situation as I've seen in the last 8 years in the Eastern Conference. In the sense that I think it's more wide open than ever before, and I think there are more variables to kind of choose from than ever before. I like what Cleveland's done or did in this game. They start Larry Nance in part because Tristan Thompson goes down. They move Rodney Hood into the starting lineup. I think that makes them more athletic. I think that improves the shooting. But this team is still deplorable defensively. Yes, they got off against the Detroit Pistons, but everybody is getting off against the Detroit Pistons nowadays. Nick, you were tweeting the other day, and we went back and forth a little bit about that huge win over the Brooklyn
I wasn't
Nets.
tweeting anything about the huge win.
I know you were tweeting about LeBron and his accomplishment in that game. But since the All-Star break, their wins are over Brooklyn, which stinks, and Memphis, which is tanking. So they haven't
done the same as Boston's winning streak, which made you put them back in the contender discussion. Their 4 wins were horrible.
Right.
And you wrote a whole soliloquy about how now we're back in a 3-team race. Even Gordon Hayward, by the way, we've given up the ghost on that, right?
Look, I said a few weeks ago, I wrote a few weeks ago that he was done.
So he's not coming back. The big Greg Monroe signing for Boston, he had a good game the other day.
2 in a row, good games against your Houston Rockets.
But so the idea that a lot of these teams are going to beat the bad teams. Like, you're supposed to beat the bad teams. I interrupted you. I'm sorry. We can't. What's not fair to do to Cleveland is say, okay, their wins don't count because of who they were playing, because the way in which they won.
Well, sometimes we have to do that, Nick, because sometimes their losses to you don't count.
No.
Because we asked the question, are you concerned? They lose. They give up 130, 126. Like, are you concerned? No.
Well,
so now when they win, why couldn't we
go ahead,
do the same thing that you do all the time?
Because I think I've actually been very consistent with the team. When they were losing pre-trade deadline,
I'll give you that.
I said at all times that the reason I wasn't concerned was because I knew, as it was obvious, because this is what they've done every year when need be, they would make major moves at the trade deadline, and they did. The reason I was not wildly concerned about the defense post-trade deadline is we all watch a lot of basketball. They are obviously a better defensive team. They have better defensive players. They have better athletes than they had when they were trotting out Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas and Dwayne Wade. So I believe that the team, once they mesh, once they're out of a training camp mode, that they are better equipped. Like, there's been reason for it each time, each step along the way.
Okay. First, to clarify the record here, you were not saying they'll make a trade, they'll figure it out. You were saying you were remain calm, but or maybe at some point. But when I was on here, you were very much remain calm, all is well. The Cavs go through this every single year. It's not the end of the world.
Yes.
Like, even with that current roster, that was my big beef with that current roster. Here's what it comes down to in the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference comes down to, what do you believe in with the top 3 teams? Do you believe the Cleveland Cavaliers will flip a switch defensively and not look as terrible as they have looked at times against teams like Brooklyn and lesser tier teams that shouldn't score? Boston, do you believe that a 21-year-old in Jaylen Brown and a 20-year-old in Jason Tatum are going to play significant minutes and step up in the conference finals? Toronto, do you believe in Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam and this also Rans off the bench? I'll tell you, though, out of those 3 teams, I believe in what Toronto has right now. I believe in what the Raptors have right now. I don't believe that bench scoring 40 points per game is an aberration. I don't believe they're going to revert back to being the Lowry and DeRozan show in the playoffs. Look, there's a long way to go and a lot can happen, but if you're looking for what might be the most consistent team in the playoffs, it does to me look like Toronto.
Well, because they have been consistent.
They've been consistent all year long.
You're asking to decide the East, you have to decide what you believe about.
Those are the variables.
Yeah, but the Cavs don't have to flip a switch defensively to win the East.
What are you talking about?
What I am talking about is very simple. And people can say, oh, you're always going to rely on it. Of course I'm going to rely on this. The playoff version of LeBron James, where his usage rate goes up, where everything runs through him, where he absolutely is more engaged defensively, is good enough to win the East. It would have been with the previous roster. Now, they certainly need a much better defensive effort to have any shot against Golden State or Houston. That is the standard to which Chris yesterday said he's judging them.
Yeah,
now,
I'm going to let y'all fight over the Eastern Conference, because for me, they ain't giving no trophies. Y'all can put up banners and everything, but wherever LeBron James is, championship expectations. So all my questions that I don't answer the question, hey, what do y'all think about Cleveland? My thing is, can Cleveland win a championship? And for that, I have great concerns because that's LeBron's goal. I'm not changing my goal from LeBron's goal.
But, Cece, going into this year, the Warriors were the biggest favorite headed into a season that we've seen in recorded NBA history, bigger than any Shaq Kobe year, bigger than any Jordan Bulls year. The Warriors headed into this year when people didn't know IT was going to be a disaster, when people didn't know Jay Crowder was going to end up on the Jazz, I think he's playing for now. Yeah. Like, in that situation, the Warriors were the biggest favorites ever. So, like, my question, I guess, for you or either one of you, like, what's changed for you about the Cavs from there to now? Like, the Warriors were overwhelming favorites then.
They have the best player, Nick. That's what you keep telling us. Mm-hmm. So anytime in NBA history, when they had the best player, there was a championship potential for that team. So why would we change it now?
But my question is, has your belief that the Cavs can win the title gone down from the day we started the season?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Absolutely. When they traded Kyrie, I thought they would have problems. Mm-hmm. I still think that they have problems. So that to me,
we're drifting far afield here a little bit because I don't think that the Cavs have any chance of beating anybody coming out of the West. I think that what we're discussing is strictly an Eastern Conference conversation. That whoever they play, Golden State or Houston, they're not going to win. Your refusal to kind of acknowledge how bad the Cavs are defensively and how problematic that's going to be in the playoffs continues to astound me.
What were the Cavs defensively after the All-Star break last year, man?
I don't care.
29.
They were
29.
Kyrie Irving. They had Kyrie
and that was a
Irving
defensive
who could carry them in bad games. Kyrie Irving.
But when you're better offensively, then you can rely on your offense compared to the defense. Mm-hmm. To me, my biggest thing is LeBron, since he's been in Cleveland. Since he came back to Cleveland, 154 times they have held teams under 100 points. Now, can they do that in the playoffs? Because they have won 130. This is regular season and the playoffs. They won 130 of those. So for me, like what they did last night, how often can they duplicate that? So the defense becomes very, very important in analyzing. Forget about LeBron's usage and everything. When teams go over 100 points, Cleveland has more problems.
I feel like one of the conversations we're still talking about is which is the best lineup for them. What's going to happen when Kevin Love comes back? How are they going to find the best five? There's only 20 games left. At some point, they need to figure out, well, who's going to be out there, and when are they going to suddenly turn it on that we talk about, and then they're going to start playing defensively well again? Or when does LeBron suddenly turn it on? Is it the day the playoffs start?
Well, look, I don't even think they played well at any point during this season. They'd have to start actually playing well. And look, it is problematic.
118 of 19 at one point, but go ahead.
That's it. Okay, that stretch was smoke and mirrors. Total smoke and mirrors during that stretch. The good teams they beat, not, again, far afield. Jed is right. Going into the last stretch of the season, they're still mixing and matching lineups. And we talk about, can the Raptors rely on their young, unproven bench? Right now, the starting lineup includes two guys that have never experienced high-level playoffs, Rodney Hood and Larry Nance Jr. You're telling me you're sure that this Cavs team walks into the playoffs and defends at a high level? This Cavs team, Nick, has a better chance of losing in the first round than playing at a high level defensively.
Okay,
or at least it's an equal.
I mean, that's a great thing to say, even though all of history says you're crazy. They don't have to walk into the playoffs and defend at a high level. They have to be in the beginning of June defending at a high level. That's all they've got to do. And you're saying we don't know what lineup they need. Yeah, we do. Like, listen, guess what? Their best big lineup is George Hill, Rodney Hood, LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Larry Nance. Their best small lineup is Kevin Love at the center with Nance on the bench and in place either J.R. Smith or Kyle Korver. Like, we know this with Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench. Ty Lue knows this as well. He's getting other guys minutes. Last night he had to get Ante Zizic minutes because Tristan Thompson's injured. They're mixing and matching. But they know what they're going to have to do come the postseason. Like, we are acting as if my blind faith is blind faith.
It's blind because we haven't seen it. We have never seen LeBron and Hood. We've never seen LeBron and Nance. We've never seen LeBron and George Hill. Like, we've never seen it. So it is blind.
Chris, we had never seen LeBron and JR. We had never seen LeBron and Shump. We had never seen LeBron and Mozgov. And guess what? They walked through these playoffs.
That was LeBron 4 years.
And it was a different conference.
Okay. You think LeBron is worse now, right now, than he was his first year in Cleveland?
It's not a matter of worse, Nick. All right? If you expect to get those same results and we haven't seen it, like, we can't predict that. Like, we just made that up. Okay. Like, because we have not seen them. All right? Toronto with the same lineup, we've seen the consistency. You might not like Boston, but they've accomplished a lot having those two young players.
We've never seen it with Boston. What are you talking about? It's a totally new team. It's a totally new team.
We're trying to get through the regular season, Nick, but the continuity of getting through the regular season. If you have 40 games together, that's more than they have with Hood. That's more than they have with Clarkson. That's more than they have with George Hill. Now, you tell me you're not worried about George Hill. His inability to knock down the three when he's wide open, and how athletic, how much juice does George Hill have left?
George Hill, for his career, and this year was shooting 45%. For his career, was shooting 38% from three. I think this 2-week slump from three, I'm not concerned about that because we have a body of work. We have a body of work.
There's nothing going on in Cleveland that you're concerned about.
He cherry-picked his threes in Sacramento.
Okay, sure, but what about his career prior when he was a 38% shooter?
I think shooting's reliable, defense, maybe not so much.
Right.
We have
for a team that's 37 and 26. He's got no concerns.
Okay, I mean, that's one way to say it. Another way to say it, for a team with the 5th best record in all of basketball, everyone acts like the damn sky is falling. They got the best player in the world and the 5th best record in the league, despite that.
If they have the best player in the world, then their expectation should be a championship. And if that's their expectations, I'm concerned.
Okay.
Buck 23 against Brooklyn, man.
Oh, yeah, I saw that tweet. That was nice.
My God.
Chris Mannix, thank you so much for joining us today.
Wasn't that the day when he went over 30,000?